that's what a long-term and successful relationship is built on. It's built on respect and trust, which equals routine. The routine is established so this relationship will not end. Where, I know what she's going to do at this time and she knows what I'm going to do. But once they added no fault divorce, that respect and routine, and before I go a little further, a lot of feminists like to talk about, well, I don't want to be at home sitting and cooking for a man like a slave. So you're a slave when there's someone you trust and respect, and you get home and you get to cook for a person that trusts you. A lot of these feminists don't understand that when a man eats a meal from a woman, there's a lot of trust involved in that. You didn't think about it. When you go buy food at Subway or a restaurant or even these street food vendors, you keep your eye on them while they cook. You look at their hands if it's dirty. But your wife or your girlfriend that's living with you, you just trust based off of respect and the routine that, okay, I know her, she's going to cook, she's going to wash her hands. I don't need to see, I don't need to question what she's doing. I'm just going to get home and I'm going to eat whatever she cooked. And she knows what I like to eat and so on. It's about respect. So when these feminists point out that they were slaves, you were a slave for cooking and cleaning for someone that respected and trusted you, and vice versa. That just shows the level of insanity. But a lot of feminists push the, you gotta get your whole independent career and you gotta respect and trust your boss and so on over your man at your house that didn't interview you for a job and isn't looking for a replacement for you every day. Because when you work somewhere, they're looking for a replacement. Now, the biggest thing is that the feminists technically, they're not wrong. The reason they're not wrong and why they push independence and working so much is because a, a woman can respect her boss. A boss could fire her. Her boss has authority and has her respect. Unlike the man at the house where, because of no fault divorce, she could throw him away at any time. There's no reason to respect a man, and that man has no authority. That was the whole goal of no fault divorce. It was to remove the male authority. Now, another thing that happened during no fault divorce was that, and a lot of white people and white men don't get what happened. What the government did on the side. They thought it was, oh, they're attacking the black community, it doesn't affect us. No. You see, in the 50s, the government knocked on the door of black families, and it offered welfare. It offered a welfare that to this that even I remember a friend of mine told me that in 2000 it was still in place, where welfare will only help a family so long as the father isn't there. A lot of men that aren't thinking on a higher plane of common sense don't understand. The reason the government wants to help when a man isn't in the household is that the government doesn't want its influence or dependence on it in any shape or form interfered by the father being around. And another thing is, you gotta remember, we in America we have a private prison industry. Remember, the only place you can be a slave is in prison. So how do you increase the prison population? Well, you add welfare. And when they added welfare, they didn't help the men struggling, the men that would lead and father their children and add leadership and independence into them. No, they helped out the mom and push dependence and reliance on the government. That's why we have a whole huge culture of SJWs and so on, because they're a product of the 1950s, where the government started the whole be dependent on us because you can't be independent, because there's something stopping you from being independent, you know? And that they pushed the father out. Then they added child support. You know, child support, of course, a child should have support, you know, when it is deemed within reason and within factual, you know, when it's based off facts. It's not based off, you know what? Mom woke up one day, hated pops, left, boom, put him on child support. When that father was in their life, being the best father he could be and the best thing the child needs, which is a father figure. But, you know, the government, like I stated, doesn't want that. So they created the family court, which is all about dividing and destroying the family, because the government actually wants the single mother, they want the single mother aspect to be the example of the country. Because the thing is this, when you have a single mother parent household, what and the government no longer wants a nuclear family because the father was still there. The father could still filter and create dependency on the children to depend on their father and then eventually depend on themselves. They want a single mother household because they want to breed, you know, that the ultimate man is the government. The person you should depend on first at all times is the government, never anything else. So the government created a whole single mother initiative. They want that to be, that's why in the black community you got it at over 70%. You know, their mission succeeded. And then now the majority, even the white communities, in the process of having, I think they have over 50% now, single motherhood. You know, you know, that aspect. Children, they wanted to normalize it, that children shouldn't have their fathers. Their fathers should be the government, you know. And the other reason they want that is that the government knows it's easier with children having no father's influence, you know what I mean, at all. It's easier for them to breed future prisoners, to increase their population of prisoners, drug addicts, and so on. They don't want that stability or influence of self-reliance. They don't want that. You know, they want the father out of the family household as soon as possible. So now let me get back. So in the 1950s, they passed no-fault divorce. 1950s, they began the welfare program through the black community. And also, they eventually got the child support. Basically, they effectively removed all authority that a man has over his family. They made it easy for the relationship that a man's with his girl to be built on emotion. So as soon as she loses that emotional high or that emotional rush or dedication to that emotion, she can destroy that unification, be it marriage, be it boyfriend and girlfriend. Then she has, you know, all the tools needed, the family court, the judicial system set up to lock up her man at any time. Because you got to remember that child support or alimony, you'd go to jail if you don't, if you're in back payment, or even if you pay more than you agreed to pay, you go to jail. It's all set up to imprison the fathers and so on. So the government got what it wanted. So a lot of people want to talk about we're going to be in a police state when the cops are patrolling our neighborhoods, walking around. That's a lie. We've been in a police state since the 50s. We've been in a police state as soon as you have that a man cannot have authority over his family, over his household, then you're in a police state. Because think about it, only the police can discipline your children. A father slaps his son outside, a slap, to the face. It ain't gonna kill him. Or, slap to his daughter, whatever. It ain't gonna kill that child. They go to jail. What is that called? Child abuse. But a cop slams your kid's head in the car while they're trying to put him in a cruiser. That's not, child abuse. Because the government in a police state, only the government can discipline your children. Only the police that are approved and sent by the government can discipline your children. That's why we've been in a police state. Once you as a man can no longer discipline, teach, or maintain your family, you don't have any rights. You're not even, a man isn't even secondary. You don't even come second to your wife anymore. Your kids have more authority than you in a relationship, and they know it, because what is it? You yell at your kid, that kid could report that now as abuse. You punish your kid, you send them to their room and you say, you know what? No dinner tonight. Oh man, that's abuse. That's inhumane treatment. But if that kid goes to jail and is fed government cheese and is fed stale bread, that's not abuse. The only people that have the right to discipline your children is the government. And how a lot of people ask, and another thing you gotta look at is notice the difference with the protests. In the 50s and 60s, when you had protests led by the men and the father figures, mostly men raised with their fathers around, it was more peaceful, more tranquil, more well organized. Now you see a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests. You see some violence, and you see this and that, because, and even with the LA riots, you had people rioting and burning their own community, you know. And another thing is, some of them might have been government infiltrators hired to do so. But the thing is this, as you notice, a lot more destruction, because you have that lack of discipline, you know. And that's why when a lot of people say they're defunding the police. Now what's bad about them defunding the police is that now you took out the father figure. Like I said, we've been in a police state since the 50s, because only the police have authority to discipline your children and teach them. And the thing is this, when the police discipline your children, they're going to jail. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you had a father figure around, they discipline their kids so they don't have to get disciplined or go to jail. You know what I'm saying? The hardest lessons in discipline was at home. So you would avoid and not need to be disciplined by the police and so on. But the reason this is bad, the whole defunding of the police and so on, that's gonna happen, is a lot of people don't think, they say abolish the police and so on. But where is that money going? That money's gonna go towards more government, that more government assistance programs that are all about breeding dependency on the government and the destruction of the independent spirit of the American people. That's where all this money is going to go to. So you defund the police because they have, what is it? I was reading an article in Florida that the police will only respond to violence, which is what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to only respond to violence. The cops aren't supposed to be responding to, yo, I'm getting in an argument with my wife. Call the cops so they can agree or be on my side. No, but that didn't used to happen when you allowed the men in the household to have authority. So now they don't have authority. The biggest danger with this is that, okay, you're going to defund the police. Now, that money's going to go to, and I tell people we're heading towards, we're already there. I mean, we're in a, it's not a class warfare where it's the rich, the millionaires and so on. No, it's in those in the government, the governing class and the non-governing class. That's what we're in, you know. Because notice the celebrities are affected by COVID, you know. And I mean, Facebook was once, Mark Zuckerberg was called into trial by the government. And the government didn't even provide people that ask questions that qualified. It was old, outdated government guys that asked, can Facebook do my taxes? They didn't even know what they were talking about. We're heading towards two classes. The governing class and the non-governing class. So, you know, that's why I had to talk about is that a lot of men want to talk, a lot of people want to talk about divorce and so on without understanding that divorce, the whole aspect of divorce and any man getting married during these times when it is open, it's in the public eye where they literally have videos blaming men. And a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the police officers quitting don't understand too. You're a man. The majority of the police force is you're a man. The government, what it's doing is we need less police because we need less men in authority. Even if you're a police officer, you know, you're still a man at the end of the day. We need the government to appear far more, far more like an entity, a mysterious entity. What most likely is going to happen is we're going to head into, a military state. And what a lot of people don't understand is that at least with the police, you had public people working, you had citizens working for the police. Now, when you head into a militarized state that's militarized by the government, what are you gonna do? You know, where are you gonna file your complaints? You're gonna have to file your complaints to the military that has so much. You think the police union and so on is a brick wall and something hard for you to break through or get anything through? Once it becomes a militarized state, you know, where the military operates strictly on government orders, they're gonna have far more immunity and impunity, whatever you want to call it, than the police. And what we're heading to is you're gonna have the governing body and the non-governing body. And the governing body, which here's the thing about they always blame the police, is that, for example, you got George Floyd who died in Minneapolis. And I think the mayor or governor came out, and I think it was the mayor, he came out and said, oh my God, this should have never happened. And I stand for equality and I stand for justice. And what happened to George Floyd was god awful, and I don't stand for that. That's BS. The reason it's BS is that you're the mayor. You're the one that passed all the laws and all the rules that allowed the police to function in a state where they treat the citizens less than human beings. They treat them like some animals. You're the mayor. You're the one who made all the laws. I mean, it's like, what's his name? Bloomberg in New York that has stop and frisk and so on. And then some people died or lost their jobs because of stop and frisk. Then he, as the governor of New York, came out like he's gonna fix or he's gonna blame the police. You can't blame the police for something your mayor you voted for put in place, you know? But in closing, like I said, man, divorce, all of that was to remove the the authority, the male authority. Now, let's fast forward to why the government and why a lot of YouTubes and all of them is attacking MGTOW and they're not attacking feminism or something like that. The reason is that feminism lives off, like I stated in part one. Feminism is about allowance. A group of women that get together, it's all about what they're allowed to do. A group of men get together, it's a governing body. And it's a governing body, and these men, even though MGTOW is a philosophy and so on, it's a group of men coming together forming a governing body. And that threatens the governing body that already exists. They see MGTOW and a group of men getting together as a threat to their governing supremacy and as an alternative to how they already govern. And in a society where, like I tell people, the biggest reason we have such corruption, racism, all that BS is that we don't have a neutral ground. We don't have an organization that operates as a neutral party. They're not part of the government. They're not part of the citizens. They operate in the middle. And their job is to act as the bridge between the governing body and the non-governing body. And they pass and maintain the laws as such. You shouldn't get special treatment because you're a judge. You shouldn't get special treatment because you're a cop. You shouldn't get special treatment because you're a teacher. Like, for example, they got teachers raping, teachers taking advantage and sexually harassing kids, and they get away with it. You know what I'm saying? And these are people that have authority over these scenarios. I mean, if a cop killed someone and the evidence is right there should be no questions asked. You should serve far more time than someone with a non-authority figure. There shouldn't even be no you're getting out early because of good behavior. There shouldn't be none of that because you had authority over these people. A corrupt judge should automatically, you're serving more time. There's no good behavior. You're losing your license. You're losing your money. Your pension's gone. Everything should be, anybody in authority that is found corrupt should pay the highest bounty. You know what I mean? Your pensions, your earnings, you should lose everything. Especially if you're in a governing body. But like I stated, man, and I'll make a future video that, I plan to make a video that is what I call a solution. But, we'll see what happens. But like I said on this video, you have to understand that the government hates dependency on a male figure or male authority. Because you being, someone depending on you isn't them depending on the government. I bet drunk that water too fast. But you know what I'm saying? You have to understand that the last thing the government wants, is someone to depend on anything other than them. That's what's going on. That's what's happening. So until next time, this has been Hold the Truth Hostage, where if the truth was so important, we would hold it hostage and not negotiate with lies. Have a good one.